Hello. This is
Hello. So Tara's going to run the parent panel. Welcome back, everybody.
Yes. I'm so excited for this portion of our talk today. I invite the panelists to turn on their videos so we can see their smiling faces. Yay! I don't think you can see my face, but there we go. So yay! I want to introduce our wonderful panelists that we have on here today. We have Lisa and Miles. Maybe you can just wave. Yep, awesome. Thank you. And we have Leanne joining us today. Great. And Danielle. And Larry. Is Larry there today?
He's on his way.
He's on his way. Great. Super exciting. And then I think that those are all the panels we have for today. So that's great. What I would love for you all to do is for just to introduce yourself and maybe tell us the name of your child, if you're okay sharing first names, and then share with us maybe the degree of hearing loss that your child has, and maybe what they use, if they use an amplification or not, and then how they communicate. Those are three things. And then the most important thing is just what does your child love? Like, what brings your child joy? So we would love to know those four things, I guess. Name, degree of hearing loss, and type of amplification if they use, and communication system, and then what they love. All right. So Lisa and Miles, you're at the top of my screen, so you get to go first.
All right. Okay. Yep. So I just took his earbuds. That's Miles. Our child.
Actually, Lisa, I can't hear you very well. Can you maybe it's just me, but.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. Right there.
Is that better?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
You hear me now? Okay. I don't know what happened. It just needed to do something different. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I'm Lisa. This is Miles. Our child is Elin. She's 11 years old. She has profound hearing loss, pretty much on both sides, a little bit better on the left. She has a cochlear implant. She's implanted on her right side. She does not use a hearing aid on her left side because she chooses not to. Let's see. She uses multiple different ways to communicate. She uses some sign language, rudimentary sign language, I'd say, and she uses a little bit of vocalizations that we understand fairly well. And then she has an eye gaze device that she uses. So she's been using her eye gaze quite well to communicate with us with that. And let's see, what does she love? She has a horse. She loves riding her horse. She loves giving hugs. She likes making people smile, and she loves making people laugh. So she has a very good sense of humor. So that's just a little bit about her.
Great. Thank you very much. Perfect. A horse. My daughter would love a horse. She's very lucky. Leanne, you are next on my screen. Why don't you share us a little bit about your kiddo? Did she go away?
Oh, Leanne, you're muted.
Oh. I'm not sure. Okay.
Let's come back to Leanne because we were having some technical difficulties.
Right. All right. So Danielle, you're up.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Awesome.
So I'll introduce us both, and Larry will pop in. He's helping out B with her breakfast, her brunch. So I'm Danielle, and my husband's Larry, and our daughter is Beatrice. We call her B, and she is 11. She was born deaf with profound hearing loss and bilateral. She has cochlear implants bilaterally. She got the first one at about 13 months and then the second side a year later. She communicates using a combination of English
And when she's got her cochlear implants on, well, I would say when she's got them on and when she's got them off, and she also uses American Sign Language. She doesn't use any of those languages in the way that people would expect her to, or perhaps want her to, but those are all the languages she uses. And she utilizes them all and needs them all. What brings her joy? I would say the Cars characters, the Toy Story characters. She has a big love of some of those Disney movies, and has for years. She's got a funny sense of humor, and it pops up when you least expect it. And I think she gets a kick out of giving other people a laugh. But she's got sort of this dry sense of humor, and it's sneaky. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's how I would describe her. Thanks.
Excellent. Great. It looks like maybe we have Emily joining us as well.
Hi.
Hi, Emily. Did you hear just a little bit of the information we want you to share right off the bat?
Yeah.
Great.
I think with the kids, starting off with things. Yeah. Okay. So I have twin boys, non-identical. They were born with mild to severe hearing loss. They use hearing aids. One is more talkative than the other. One is nonverbal, but he's getting better with sounds and demonstrating what he wants. Trying to think. They're both 3 years old, yeah, and they're in preschool. And what they both enjoy, one is Jameson. He loves bowls, anything that spins. He loves the outdoors. He loves water play. And the second one is Jacoby. He loves small objects, loves the outdoors. He loves cats. Jameson, it between the both of them, it gets pretty crazy. I'm trying to think of what are the other questions. What makes him happy? Kobe's on a D-tube. He was born not able to suck and swallow. So that comes along with a lot of misunderstanding. So yeah, they're pretty crazy 3-year-olds right now, and I have a daughter who's 1, and I have a 1-month-old son. So yeah, it's a bit of a household for kids under 3 and under. So a lot of craziness going on.
Definitely a busy family, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Great. Well, good, Emily. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And it looks like Leanne's back, so maybe she can introduce herself and her little kiddo as well.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I turned off my video because it keeps kind of getting a little bit sketchy. So hopefully everyone can continue to hear me. But okay. I'm Leanne. I have a soon-to-be 12-year-old son. His name is Colton. He's in 6th grade, and he's in a mainstream multi-grade level class. So he's in a 4th, 5th, and 6th grade class. He does have hard of hearing peers as well as hearing peers in his class. He was diagnosed with Charge syndrome clinically at 2 days old, and then genetically confirmed at about 4 months old. Some of the challenges he's faced. So I know you want us to just go through the hearing loss, but I just wanted to list all the things we've gone through. So he has bilateral coloboma, which are collapsed in the eye. So part of the eye doesn't form. So in his right eye, he has actually low vision because a fluid-filled cyst formed when he was about 2. But in his left eye, he sees actually pretty well. He did have a heart defect, so he had a PDA that was open that we closed at 3. He had a cardiac cath procedure for that. For the first 6 months of his life, he was on 24/7 oxygen. And he also had feeding and swallowing challenges up until about 2. So he did have a G2 until about 2.5. He has balance issues, so he has no semicircular canal or vestibules, and he has mixed or bilateral mixed severe to profound hearing loss. He wears behind the ear hearing aids since 10 months old, and we were one of the lucky ones that got diagnosed super early because of newborn hearing screening. So we were trialing, I think at 5 weeks, we started trialing a bone conduction hearing aid, but like I said, we went to hearing aids at 10 months. He's recently, as he's been growing, so he's in that tween stage, as he's been growing, he was diagnosed with scoliosis. So he's been wearing a brace for the last 3 months. What makes him smile? Let's go to something fun. If you asked him, he would say screen time. Screen time, screen time, screen time. He loves his Nintendo Switch as well as Star Wars. But from my perspective, I would say what really does light him up, I mean, he loves dogs, no doubt about it, but it's really when he feels accepted, supported, safe, and like he belongs. So that would be kind of puts a smile on my face as well as his. Lastly, for communication, as a family, we started early intervention choosing total communication, so finding exact English, and that was through Seattle Children's. So thankfully, Dr. C is our ENT, and we've seen Tara, and I see lots of other people on that we've known through our journey. So he's really chosen listening. He's really chosen spoken language. So we did signing exact C, but we really are signing exact English, but we really kind of switched to listening spoken language. So that's it, I think. Anything else?
More to come, definitely. Thank you for that summary. I really appreciate it. I know that you all could all do a 45-minute talk about all the about your journey for each one of your children. So I really appreciate everyone being here and sharing their stories. We've come up with some questions that we would like to ask, but we also would love the audience to offer questions as well through Slido if they have questions that they really wanted to ask the family. So I thought I could get it started with one of our first questions. And so I'm going to read the whole thing because it's definitely a thought-provoking question. But the first question is, what stage or transition along your child's journey or really your family's journey has been particularly difficult, and what's been really rewarding? So I know that you've all had a long, you've had a long history, right? And what really sticks out though is something that was maybe particularly difficult or most rewarding along your journey. And just unmute or let me know if you feel like you really want to participate in that question.
I'll keep going if you want. So basically, I have a really complex kiddo, as I just shared. And so we were hit at 2 days, right? With every single system being tested, like everything. And so, and we've since learned 8 senses are impacted. So, vestibular, proprioception, interoception, those are the 3 additional, but all the typical, right? Hearing, vision, all of it has been impacted. So I would say that initial stage was so crazy, right? Getting the diagnoses and all the different testing, but it was, so each stage has been beautiful and challenging. But I would say that first stage was the beautiful part of it was we were bubble wrapped with these beautiful, people that were coming into our homes every week, right? So we had vision therapists, physical therapists, speech therapists. So speech therapy in those early years is really feeding. And then we had, this wonderful communication expert coach that came in to really kind of help us. As, we talked about with Dr. Wiley, all of the building blocks of communication. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't miss those building blocks along the way. And so, as we transitioned into from that birth to 3 bubble, that we went into kind of a black hole because we went to visit the developmental preschool, and I said, no, thank you. We're not going to do that. And so we kind of just made our own path, right? We added in hippotherapy, we added in swimming, we added in lots of other things, as well as going in for speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. So we did drive-in services for those first 2 years, or those 3 to 5 years. And then where we are today, I would say is the biggest challenge of my life right now. We are in a typical mainstream school, typical classroom. However, it's been challenging to get the team to really be collaborative with us, to understand all of the things and the complexity of this child, because when he has access, when he has like these agents at school that like accessibility agents that help him understand what's going on, he can do it. And so I would say that that's been my most challenging kind of, we don't really fit anywhere, right? We don't fit deafness, and we don't fit real intellectual disability because he is at level or above. And so it's kind of this twice exceptional place that we sit that it's just really hard if we don't have the adults in the school to kind of really help support our family goals. So, yeah.
Thank you, Leanne. I really appreciate you sharing just kind of your journey from early on and as your child has grown and developed in new ways. I bet that some of the other panelists that may resonate with you as well, working with a variety of professionals. Does somebody else want to also chime in for that particular question? Larry and Danielle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. I mean, just what Leanne was saying, you got some people, actually, Tara, like yourself, has just been absolutely fantastic. We love Tara. My daughter loves Tara, and there's just been so many great people along the way. But there have been challenges, particularly with the school. Trying and if you have, like, with our situation, she's deaf and autistic, so it kind of takes her in this like really like in between, but the bottom line is she's deaf, and so we have this constant back and forth with the team, and just trying to get support along those ways is pretty difficult. We've tried a number of different things. The ABA therapy is really done a lot. So we actually split up for days, half day after school, and then half day with their ABA therapy, which has been they've been like fantastic. And particularly challenging with the school district is just the autism part, and just trying to get people to understand the challenges that she may face. So it's like, once again, like, we don't really fit in a particular spot, but they want her to go to an intensive program, but she's there. So it's like, it's like trying to figure out where she ends up, and I think that's particularly challenging. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I would echo everything Larry has said and the observations Leanne has made, and I think the big takeaway from all of that is that the school system, and I would say, though we've had fantastic experiences with many of our providers, this system, that sort of all-inclusive system, is not designed for kids who have multiple disabilities, and specifically, since here we're talking about deaf kids with other things going on.
Deaf plus.
It's just much easier, I think, for folks and for systems to be like, we know how to focus on our DHH kids, but then when you add in these complexities, and we know that deaf kids are more likely to have other disabilities anyways, it's just that navigating these systems and actually getting the supports needed is such a challenge. It's like I think even if you have typically developing kids, you're always an advocate, but it's like turbocharged advocacy when you have a deaf plus kid where you're just at every turn, like you think it's calm and then you're like, oh, shoot, another thing. That's kind of been our experience. I think once we knew challenges would happen and we got that, early diagnosis of being deaf. But when we got the autism diagnosis and just knew that something else, other things were going on, it's just become sort of exponentially more difficult to figure out how to manage that and to convince everybody who works with B to think of her as a whole person that has many things going on, that rather than just being a deaf kid, she's more than that. So, yeah.
Danielle, and Larry, thank you for that. I think that really brings up a really great point and leads a little bit into our next question, is that what would you really hope that professionals would be able to see, or in terms of the goals for your child? Do you feel like that has been something that you've really had to set up for yourself? Do you feel like your kiddos have definitely been tried to put in boxes and you've really had to educate them about what makes B, makes your kiddos? So what would you like professionals to know when they're starting to work with your child? Yes. Oh, Lisa had her hand up fast. Yes.
Okay, we changed our speaker. Can you hear me okay still? Okay, good. So because Elin is nonverbal and is also very complex, we have found that there are certain people who, what we say, like, get her and understand that there's so much more in that little person that you have to kind of pull out. And then there's other people who don't see that. So it's been a learning curve for us as parents to advocate for her and say, she's a very bright, intelligent child, and she's also super willful and will act like she doesn't know things. And so it's the whole team to understand that just because she's not saying the answer correctly, she might be doing it on purpose. So I know Tara and I had to do a lot of testing with her, and Tara finally was like, she's doing this on purpose. She knows all of her colors. And I'm like, I know. So we start realizing how bright they actually are, and then having to explain to other people that, our kid has so much more going inside, and you have to just really try to reach in or talk to the parents to kind of get deeper into those kids and know what's going on with them. And we've been really lucky for the last 3 years. Our school district, her teacher, and the whole group there has just been phenomenal. And they have just pulled out so many things from Eva that she's so much more alive, and she's just got we know so much more about her. And we can push her so much more, and she's not always super happy about that, but we can. And so it's fun to see that when there's the team that get her, how much she can expand and where she can go. So I think that that's really important, is that being able, as sort of their advocates, to, really talk to the professionals and say, there's a lot going on in here. We have to, how can I help you understand this in a better way to make it more clear as to what this person is really like, since she can't tell you herself. Okay, go ahead.
Along those same lines too, within working with the team, oftentimes try to get each one of the players to kind of step outside of their silo, their like little view, and look at the big picture, because oftentimes we get, all these ideas, and sometimes implementing all that stuff is not as easy as that person may think it would be, even though they want these things, because we have like 500 other things that we're having to implement at the same time. And so the reality of like getting all these things to actually sync up isn't just as simple as here's your homework, do the assignment type of situation. I think that's something that we've kind of struggled with, because then as a parent, you feel like, oh, you're letting all these people down, you're letting your child down, but you're still trying to do all these other things. And just the loss of perspective sometimes on the big picture.
A whole person is a whole person, as opposed to just a deaf person or a person with seizures, or there's a whole person And the parents are dealing with the whole person all the time. And so it's hard when everybody just comes at you with all the other little things. So, all right, we'll let somebody else go.
Yep. Miles. Emily?
I totally agree with a lot of that. Like something so simple that you're introducing to your kids, or if a teacher is introducing to them, it can become a nightmare because you know that, like, you know, the home situation versus, I mean, the environment, you know, versus the school environment, you know, like your kids have to adjust to, you know, the activity. You know, if you do it at home, you know, like, okay, we have an automatic bubble machine and I put it on, and, you know, if it doesn't, like, and if the school doesn't have that, you know, like, okay, what I'm trying to say, like, we will put the bubble machine on and they love it. But when they go to school, there's like, you know, a bubble activity and the kids will want it that way. You know, like, you know, when they're used to like, not, okay, I'm trying to like, when they have to blow the bubbles and then at home, you know, we have a machine that does it for them sort of thing. Like they're used to these routines or like, I mean, my kids, they like the twins. Yeah, one kid will like another thing done a certain way. Like they might not like it done the same way, and I have to compromise. Okay, 5 minutes with like how to do this way versus that way. And I know that Jameson did see Tara for being autistic, possibly. We don't know yet. Because of his nonverbalness at times, and for the past 6 months, he's shown a lot of improvement. So, in with like at school, like when I hear that Jameson's, you know, improving on this stuff, but then he doesn't show it at home, versus like if he shows it at home and doesn't do it at school, and I had to explain to the teachers, like, you know, like. I guess it's the environment for him, like at the time, or however it's introduced to him. If he feels comfortable, you know. And it's all about repetition to keep trying. And then
It sounds, Emily, it really sounds like what we were talking about earlier, where you really have to look at the different environments and making sure that, because they might do different things in some environments and other things in different environments, and it could be how you're setting that up at home versus how they set it up at school. And then also having that great collaborative network so that all pieces are taken into account so that you can see the whole child. Does that sound similar?
Yeah, and with Kobe, and like he talks, like he has the worst hearing from Jameson, and Jameson has normalish hearing, but it's mild, but Kobe has more of like severe, and it's just, and with his G-tube, and what we're trying to like introduce him with food, and he's just gagging, and it's just like the communication is definitely it's hard to compromise with that, because he sees Jameson eat food, and then we demonstrate a lot of things, and then at school they have snack time, and there's like, you know, and he'll lick things and stuff, and that's another thing, like when class, you know, other kids around talking and the boys are hearing it, you know, a lot more clearly, but like the environment, eating versus talking, it's just like, I guess it's all about the environment and how we choose to present it.
Definitely. And with two very different boys, that's probably even more complex, right? Trying to advocate for their needs. Definitely. I'm also the audience, if you have specific questions. I have lots of questions, but if you have specific questions, now would be a great time to put some of those questions on in Slido, and we can try and ask some of those.
And I'll answer next if you're good with that. I did put it in the chat. Can you hear me? Yeah. I did put in the chat this podcast I found recently. I think I shared it with our teacher of the deaf. I'm not sure if she's listened to it yet, but it was really, for me, a fantastic podcast. This particular one was a woman that was a provider before she had a child with a disability, and now she was interviewed on this podcast to really share, like, what would she have wanted to change, like, what would she do differently now that she was in that parent role. So it's just a fantastic thing if anybody wants to listen to it. But from my perspective, what I would want all professionals to know is when you have when your child is born with a multiple complex medical diagnosis, you are in a place of having, as parents from day one, but also a place of having to advocate from day one. And so when those parents, just like be aware that those parents have gone through a whole journey before they met you, and they do know their children best. It's a big responsibility on us when we say that, but we really do. And so this idea of collaboration, like our goal is for our children to be their best selves and to live their best lives. And so I would just want all professionals to know that like our goal is that, but sometimes we've had a lot of trauma. So we get into those IEP meetings and I will say Mama Bear comes out like that because that's my role, right? And that's what I've been doing for 12 years. And so I just want and hope that we can get better collaboration so that you can kind of just understand that parents have, they're not wanting to necessarily be, well, how about I say it this way? You can either, as professionals, have us be on your side or our dukes will be up. It's either way. Like there's just kind of no in between with that because we can sense when you're authentic and when you really want the best for our kids or when you don't. And so it's kind of, yeah, that's what I'd like to say. So thank you.
That's really great advice, and thank you for sharing the podcast. I think that's really helpful. Is there just again to the group, is there any best advice that you've received from another professional, or it sounds like from a family member that you're your child's best advocate has been a really important message. Anything else any advice you've received from a professional or another family that really stuck with you and you think about as you've been along this journey?
I mean, probably, at least for me, Danielle can talk about this as well. And Leanne kind of talked about this. It's really, it's pretty quick. You can tell when someone's really devoted and really willing to help you. And there's some individuals that just, this is the way it has to be. And they get in this rigid, very, this is what they have to do. And the one thing that I would say for providers is it's never like, we want you to go there. It's not that way with Deaf Plus. It's like you end up over there. So then you have to kind of wiggle and then, all the way over here just to get to your point. And so it's kind of like that instead of going, okay, we got you this box and then just blam on on the parents. And it's just, it just doesn't work that way. We want B to do a certain thing, but then sometimes we just don't even get close. So then how can we move around that to get to that point? And so like supporting that, I think is a big one. And where do you want them to go? And if you don't hit that spot, that's okay. We're just going to take another route to get there. And I think that's probably the biggest one, at least for me. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's right. And so maybe the call out there, like, or even the call to action is sort of for anybody, whether it's teachers or providers or whomever, like, I think we've encountered so many folks who, like Lisa and Miles talked about, have their specialty, right? It's very so common with medicine and that medical aspect of things. Like, I'm a specialist in X. And so when you introduce Y and Z and all the other letters of the alphabet, it's like, well, I don't know how to do that. But I think it's hard for people to acknowledge, I'm not a specialist in these other things that your kid is dealing with and that your family is dealing with. And being willing to say, I don't know, I need help with that as a provider, or as a teacher, or as a PT, or whatever it is you do. And because as parents, we have to do that too. It's like, shoot, okay, here's a new thing with our kid. Now we have to somehow teach ourselves to be the expert in that, or reach out to figure that out. That desire, that openness to collaborate, to build a team even if they're outside of your official institution, right? Like to build a team that can work with this family, work with this kid. I feel like there's a big opportunity there, and it maybe doesn't get taken as often as it could be to really do right by these kids.
And don't forget that the support system, unfortunately, sometimes has to go the legal route. And the lawyers, they've been really, really helpful in helping us navigate some of this stuff. And it's not just the specialists and the doctors and ABA therapies. It's actually our lawyer helped us out a lot. And if you can't afford the legal fees, because my God, they're very expensive, ARC has another support system as well that can give you representation during your IEP meetings. Because as parents, we go up against 5-6 people at a time, and it can be overwhelming to turn around and be. I think it was Leanne that said, you got to pull out the mama bear. I 100% agree. It also helps a lot if you have the attorney
or some sort of
advocate from ARC to help you out.
Do you feel like there's been a specific network of parents, or I guess parents, that have been a good support system, knowing that you have children that are more medically complex? Do you feel like there's been a parent support that's been helpful to you?
I have to say no.
Yeah.
I think one of the issues is, even at our school, we're kind of siloed. So the only time that we have an opportunity to talk is maybe through like some certain social events. Mm-hmm. But I think I wish there was more ways that we can be social. I mean, because I do recognize some people in this group, but like now that I see them, I'm going to be like, hey, how's it going? But there really isn't, at least for us, the parent. I wish there would be more, but there's just not. I mean,
I would say, and this is going back years for us now because it's B is 11, but the best social support and community that we had was an early intervention.
Yeah,
we went through HSDC because and this was just our decision. We realized, well, okay, B is not going to be able to hear at all right now, and potentially at least for that first year before we could pursue a cochlear implant. What other option do we have but to pursue some sort of sign language? So we went through Hearing, Speech, and Deaf Center, who's changed their name since then. But that was a huge support network. And once Birth to 3 ends, you're kind of thrown to the wolves as parents. It's like, oh, now you deal with the school district, and that is a game changer. Whole new world. And if you're working parents and have other kids and just lots of obligations, keeping up that social network, and then a new system that changes every year with new kids coming in and out. With the TAFE programs, kids are coming in and out of classrooms all the time. And year over year, you get new students, and students go away and families go away. So I feel like having the social supports and like a parent group and parent network has been more challenging the older B has gotten. It was fantastic for Birth to 3. That was our experience, but just so much harder when they're in the school, the K-12 system.
Great. Thank you for that. We have a really great question that's kind of along those same lines. Is now that many of your children are older, I think they're all 11 except for Emily's boys. But what advice would you give to your younger self, now that you've had 11 years of growth and learning in this process? Is there something you would have said first? Do this.
I would just say it's going to be a marathon. Like you're never going to get to a place, and this is where I'm sitting now. Is you're never going to get to a place where it's calm. There's just going to be more stuff because I have a complex child. I will say from my perspective, because Colton does have charge, I've had such an incredible group of people to support me socially, not in my same area, but all over the world, where their kids have charge as well. I mean, we've called ourselves like the original charge mafia. Like, don't come after us. You come after one. You come after all. And I think we do that, where we've kind of formed that because we all felt that we had to like navigate these complex systems. Like the medical system is complex, but you don't have, at least I felt like I didn't have to fight as much as going into the school system. And then like they said, it changes all the time. So you feel like you have it and you don't really know what's going to come next. So I would just tell myself, like, just stay the course. Like you've got this. It's going to be a marathon. It's not going to be easy, but you love your kid and you'll do anything for them. So keep going.
Great. Thank you for that, Leanne. Any other advice? Yeah.
This is a simple one. And so I think parents, teachers, anybody can make whatever they want, take whatever they want from it. But as a parent, when your kid is first born to whatever age they are, there's always sort of an intuition or an instinct about things. And I would just say, don't ever ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something as little as like, oh, your instinct is saying you need to ask that question or those 5 follow-up them, because there's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually a good reason. It's not always lost if you maybe didn't listen to that voice inside you, but it's worth just digging in on stuff when it doesn't feel right, or you feel like somebody's not listening, or you have a great idea and even if it doesn't go anywhere, like, have we thought about this? I would just say listen to that voice as parents.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah.
Do you have any special advice that you would give, knowing that it sounds like that after the early intervention piece, going into the public school can be tricky? Is there any advice you would give on how to get to know your kiddo better and not just look at the diagnoses that they're coming in with, but actually how to really truly get to know your kiddo and to build that relationship?
I think to be creative in every activity that you try with them, because not every activity is going to work for each kid. Their understanding of it is not always going to work. I just think the professionals, it's like they're shadowing us. They're watching us do our thing, and then they deals on how to help with our kids, and then we both collaborate and we both map it out and be patient, be open-minded, better understanding. So I try to look at the positives and everything and just kind of go with the flow, but take action and just do the best we can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do any of you have just some of your biggest concerns as you're moving forward? I know that each stage, once you think you have a good system going, right, then the kids are getting older and faced with new challenges. Are there any concerns that you have moving forward where you are today?
Well, mine's middle school.
Yeah, mine too.
I like life, but just as we go into this puberty stage, it's like, holy moly, this is a whole new world, and it feels like a whole new world in schooling as well. So I just hope I feel a little bit better and give myself a lot of grace along the way with these next few years.
I think that was the same for us. Ewan's heading into middle school next year, and so her teachers getting her set up, and it's right across the street from our current school, so they're going there and visiting middle school. And they took a group last week, and they came back, and she used her talker, and they're talking about their emotions. She said she was scared and sad. So it's like, I'm also scared and sad. So they're going to keep taking them to the school and helping these kids transition. But it's a huge step to go to a place where they're very comfortable, to where nobody knows them. They don't know your kid. Your kid has complex medical needs, and it's a huge leap of faith to just be like, all right, I guess we're just gonna dive off this knock and see how it all goes next year when we move into a big school with big kids and lots of changes. So yeah.
Well, I really thank you all for being here, and sharing your stories and sharing your journey. It's you have, it probably feels longer than 11 years for some of you that have 11-year-olds, and it's definitely been a long journey. We really appreciate your efforts, and we hope to do better. And hopefully, with this discussion, we hope to be better and partner with you as we see your kiddos. I think Kathy has some final words for us.
Thank you very much to the panelists. I think by definition, you're all very busy people, and we really appreciate you coming to share your experiences with us. And congratulations on work well done. Your kids are all thriving because of your efforts, really. And so I encourage you to keep up the work and continue to educate us, the professionals who are trying to help along the way. We have good intentions, I assure you. We may not always hit it just right, but we're by and large eager to learn from you. So thank you for that. And as you heard from Dr. Wiley, who shared her professional expertise, a lot of this is uncharted kind of waters for everybody. And so it's actually critical that we learn from each other. So thank you to Tara for running this last session and the breakouts. I apologize to my breakout room that I messed up, but thank you to Lisa and Janet and Eli and our interpreters. Thank you to Dr. Wiley for spending the half day with us and sharing your expertise, and to all the attendees. So I hope everyone has a great day. I want to remind the attendees credit for participation. Please make sure Lisa Herber has your first and last name. You will be receiving a survey through email to give your opinions about how it went. And the critical question on the survey is, what topics would you like to hear next year? And we take those comments very seriously. We read every single one of them and do what we can. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Don't forget daylight savings time to those of you who live in states who observe daylight savings time. See you next year. Thank you.